In chapter 1182 of One Piece, Imu drops some crazy new details about Imu and Nidhogg and their connection together. I think we have a lot of pieces of the puzzle at this point, and we can start to see a full picture. So Imu says, "To think thou and I would meet again in this world," and calls Nidhogg a traitor. So obviously Imu referring to in this world, I think this means Imu met Nidhogg in either the first or the second world, and Imu is smiling when calling Nidhogg a traitor. So in my opinion, I think this means that Nidhogg is a traitor now. I don't think Imu would be smiling if Nidhogg was the reason Imu lost in, let's say, the second world. I think Imu's smiling because Nidhogg is considered a traitor because he's fighting on Nika's side through Loki. And Imu even knows Ragnar. "Thou art as I remember thee, waiting all this time for a new master." So Imu knows about Ragnar, knows about Ratatoskr, knows about needing a new master, and even says how nostalgic. So this makes me think that Imu knows about the god of war. We know back then Ratatoskr wasn't in the Ragnar hammer, so it would make the most sense for Imu to have met the original Ratatoskr along with the god of war. So I think Imu and the god of war met in the first world, and here's why I think that. First off, we know this god of war is basically Elbaf's entire ideology. Elbaf's way of life is through war and fighting and shit like that, which is all like the war god. The war god symbolizes basically Elbaf's entire theme. And I also heavily assume that the god of war's name was Elbaf, so I think that this god of war, Elbaf, founded the country of Elbaf. And that's why Elbaf has his ideology. So if the god of war is the founder, how old is Elbaf? Well, we know from Vegapunk that the ancient facilities on Elbaf were dated to about 3,000 years old, which completely predates the Void Century. So maybe this ancient facility was already on Elbaf's, the ground before Elbaf was created. So they founded the country where this facility was at. But I think that Elbaf is even more ancient than the Void Century. So that's why I assume that the god of war is from the first world. We've already seen that this Nidhogg dragon is on the first world side. I think that that was the god of war. And when Ja Rule and Harold talk about the, Nidhogg user, it doesn't seem like there was any other users besides the god of war, because Ja Rule doesn't remember any other. Ja Rule doesn't say anything besides this god of war figure. So maybe Ja Rule is withholding information. There was a, second world user of the Nidhogg fruit, but Ja Rule doesn't know about it, yet knows about the god of war. So my theory is that this Nidhogg figure is the god of war, and this figure here with this crown is Imu. We know Imu is at least bare minimum part of the second world. They are one of the first 20 kings, Imu Nerona. But why does Imu only need to be in the second world? What if Imu's immortality spanned even greater than the Void Century, and maybe Imu's from the first world? If Imu considers Nidhogg a traitor now, why wouldn't Imu consider Nidhogg a traitor when they fought in the second world? We can see that there are ancient giants fighting on the side of Joy Boy, so wouldn't Imu consider them traitors then? Or if there was a Nidhogg user in the second world, wouldn't Imu consider them a traitor then, not now? I don't think Imu would be smiling if Nidhogg was on the side of Joy Boy in the second world fighting against Imu. I truly don't think that they would be smiling. So it's my belief that Imu predates the Void Century and was part of the first world in some way, probably the ruler, and had Nidhogg as a sidekick, maybe a right-hand man. This figure on the first world side of the mural has the exact same crown as Imu when Imu's in their blob form. And the Nidhogg being above it, seemingly fighting for the figure's side, I think this is Imu with their Nidhogg dragon. Based on the mural, it seems like mankind had control of the planet in some part, and they were greedy as hell. They were, extracting this forbidden power source. This seems exactly like the celestial dragons of today. What if Imu in the past, in the first world, had complete dominant control over the world, just like Imu wants now? But Imu lost that power when Nika was created by the slaves. That's exactly what the mural says. What if Imu isn't trying to get power through this story of One Piece? Imu had power and is trying to regain it. So what if Imu had complete control, lost it, second world regains that power, and now in the third world we are ending the cycle? I think that if Imu was in control in the first world, I think Nidhogg could be their top general. I think the war god could be Imu's right-hand man. We know that the Nidhogg is seemingly all about just reducing the world to rubble. It's all about just fighting. All Loki wants to do is destroy. That's exactly what basically happens in the first world. Everything gets destroyed. If the god of war would love working for Imu, just absolutely destroying everything. We know that the Nidhogg and the god of war locked horns with the sun god. What if when Nika was created, Imu dispatched the god of war to go fight with Nika? I'm also on the side that the Dark Nika could be Imu themselves. We don't really know about that, but it could be that Imu wanted the war god to go fight Nika for them. And I'm going to get back to that in a bit later. I think that the war god might have actually changed its course, when it was fighting with Nika. Maybe it became a better person, because ultimately we know Elbaf aligns with Nika and with the will of D. One other interesting thing I've thought of is that Imu is so hell-bent on getting the giants back on Imu's side. And Imu has went so far to get Herald as a God's Knight. They want Loki to become a God's Knight. Maybe that's to replace what Imu used to have in the past. If Imu had this god of war as a right-hand man of some sort, maybe Imu's trying to replace it. When you look at the elder planets, they are all warrior gods of some sort. They all have a title and then they're called warrior god. What if that's to replace the warrior god of the past, the actual war god? Because I find that too suspicious. Like, you're naming them Justice Warrior God this, warrior god that. What if this is all because Imu's been trying to replace their holy grail, the Nidhogg? We know that the Earth God and the Hellfire Serpent destroyed the world to some capacity. I'm not too sure if Nidhogg had a part to play in that, but I do think that the warrior god Elbaf went into like the Adam tree, and that's where he was able to save his fruit, save his country, essentially. That's where the roots of Elbaf started. So it's possible that he survived the first world, explosion, whatever the hell happened, the destruction, and was able to found the country. And when he died, his fruit in Ratatoskr became fruits, whatever the hell. Nidhogg became a fruit, or was already a fruit, and that was saved in Elbaf. Ratatoskr also became a fruit and was placed into the hammer, and they were just locked away. I believe that Ragnir has been guarding the fruit since the first world. I don't believe Nidhogg was in the second world, and that might have even been why Joy Boy lost. We know from rocks that that fruit was important. The Nidhogg fruit in Ragnir are important. So it might be Ragnir deemed no one worthy in the second world and has been waiting for Loki this entire time because it has finally chosen somebody. I feel like Ja Rule and Herald would have remembered someone from the Void Century that had the fruit, considering it would only be a couple generations back. If Imu was able to survive from the first world, either through the Ope Ope, and Imu's been immortal for a lot longer than we think, maybe thousands of years. Considering the God of War was able to turn into the dragon, I think possibly devil fruits are from the first world. Imu should have been able to survive, and with Ragnir and the Nidhogg fruit surviving all of this time, Imu might have forgot about it or thought that the Nidhogg and Ragnir were destroyed in the first world, destruction phase. So Imu might have always thought that the Nidhogg and Ragnir got destroyed, whatever the hell, but they were always on Imu's side, and come to find out they actually had a face turn. Elbaf is on Joy Boy's side, and the fruit is now in the hands of someone who is part of the D. That's all I got for this video. What do you guys think about this theory? I'd like to know what you guys have to think about the God of War and Imu. What was their connection? What is Imu's connection to Nidhogg? I've had some thoughts about maybe there was an actual Nidhogg dragon in the first world, but I don't see how the God of War can exist in the second world. So I don't really know how it makes sense for Imu to meet the God of War or to meet Nidhogg if it wasn't in the first world. That's all I got for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. See ya.